You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene Johnson.
The AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The Amazing Race After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Amazing Race After Show.
Back after a 2-week break. This is the Amazing Race After Show on AfterBuzzTV.com for season 24, episode 7. The Gladiators Are Here. We're down a man tonight in the studio. We miss you, Justin, but I'm your host, James Wallington, and with me tonight is
Jessica Carroll. And yes, Justin, we miss you.
Hope you're having a great time in San Francisco. He's
I
too busy working.
Gosh.
As a host. Good for him.
We're very proud of Justin.
We're very proud of him. But we want to talk a little bit about after, 2 weeks ago, we had Jason and Amy in the studio with us, right?
Right.
2 days later, well, the night afterwards, we ended up going to the LA Kings game with Leo and Amy and Jason. But who else did we go with?
And Brenchel arrived and came, and we had a box. It was so exciting. It was the AfterBuzz crew, and then the winners from last season, Amy and Jason. The Ice Queen girls came up and said hello to us, and then Brenchel and Leo.
I think it was most fun for me was being able to watch Allie and Ashley kind of in their element, doing their thing.
Yeah, they were like on the ice, shoveling the ice and looking hot. Oh, yeah.
They were smoking hot.
Smoking.
And then afterwards, we all went out and had a few drinks, and it was a good time to just kind of hear about all their experiences on the race and just kind of hang out with them.
Yeah,
especially
awesome
Brenchel.
people.
I mean, because I know a lot of people out there have been dissing on our opinions on Brenchel and how they're racing this season, but it was nice to actually hang out with them and talk to them a little bit about their experience, and so, yeah.
I'm not going to lie, when we first heard that Brenchel was going to show up, we were a little nervous.
We were all so nervous.
Because we've shared our opinions, and we have strong opinions about them. But she was the sweetest thing. The two of them are so cute. Lots of energy, so.
Yeah.
But, hey, that's our job. We are on the AfterBuzz TV to share our opinions and critique people. So
based on what we see on the edit.
Right.
Again, we saw Brenchel in real life, so our opinions are based on the edit.
Yes.
We'll make that clear, but I just wish Justin was here to kind of weigh in a little bit on the situation. So let's just dive right into episode 7, The Gladiators Are Here. So teams start off in Sri Lanka still, right? Mm-hmm. They're getting ready to go to the Eternal City to find Hadrian's Bridge, which we find out that is Rome, Italy. But I thought it was interesting that I think Jet and Cord were the ones that knew that right away. They knew that it was Rome.
They knew it was Rome right away, but I loved how Rachel thought it was Ethiopia.
Oh my God, don't even.
I mean, seriously, that is the most random. Where did she get that?
Okay, first off, sweetheart, Ethiopia is not a city. Okay, that is a country in Africa. So when she said Ethiopia, Africa, I about died a little on the inside.
No, I was dying. I'm blonde, and I even know that.
That was probably one of my favorite quotes, though, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Hey, though, when in Rome,
exactly.
When in Rome, you never know what's going to happen.
So Leo and Jamal, finishing strong last week, were the first ones to leave the mat this week, and they left at 2:41 p.m., which a minute later, followed by Jet and Cord at 2:42. They wasted no time by going to the travel agency right away to talk about getting tickets to Rome. Then John and Jessica were the third to leave at 3:01 p.m. They've been kind of, in the middle of the pack or towards the front of the pack this entire season. So we'll kind of dive into a little bit about what happened this entire
Yeah.
episode. But I really liked what Jessica had to say, and I kind of wish that it was the name of the episode. She's like, you eat, sleep, and live the race.
Yeah, you do.
And she loves that. So I have to appreciate, you know, just the spirit that they bring, and even though they didn't get much airtime this season.
Yeah.
So Dave and Connor were the fourth team to leave at 3:02, Brenchel at 3:05, Flight Time and Big Easy at 3:09, and then Caroline and Jennifer leaving at 3:26 p.m. And of course, to add some drama to this entire episode, they were all on the same flight.
Same flight.
Started off with an equalizer.
Yeah. I always love equalizers. And then now it was like, okay, where are you going to sit on the flight? First one's off. So we had, everyone was in the front of the bus except for the Cowboys, the Globetrotters, and Dave and Connor. They were in the back of the bus, the last ones to get off the airplane. And, you know, when there is an equalizer airplane ride, those few minutes can really benefit you. So
I agree. And we even saw Jessica say that too. Like, those final moments at the airport are extremely crucial to how you're going to do well on that leg. So when all the other teams were on the bus, on the tarmac going away from the plane, like, I would have told the driver, it's time to go.
Yeah.
Like, let's go, please, please, please. You know, having three teams behind you kind of gives you that security of like, all right, I'm kind of in the middle of the pack or at the front of the pack right now.
And they were yelling at that driver, like, go, go, leave them team, we're racing.
Did you think he was going to leave? Because there was a second where I was like, they're going to catch up.
I thought he was going to stay and wait. I thought for sure. And then when he drove away, I was like, oh.
He's probably like, there's camera crews here.
I know.
These people are yelling at me. I might as well do what they say.
I know.
These crazy
Could
Americans.
I lose my job or not? Okay, let's do it.
So teams were quickly leaving the airport, heading to the Hadrian's Bridge. I totally butchered a lot of these things this entire episode. My notes are pretty chaotic.
I don't even have the notes, so sure, let's go with that.
Hadrian's Bridge, where they get their clue, which is the Detour. Gladiator versus, okay, and I know Leo and Jamal butchered this word too. I think it's charioteer, right?
Sure, yeah, charioteer.
So the two choices
Race
were
the chariots.
The chariots, yes. So the gladiator teams learned a series of sword maneuvers to battle a seasoned gladiator to receive their next clue. And charioteer teams raced around a track using a radio-controlled chariot with one member who was controlling the speed while the other member was controlling the direction. After completing 5 laps within a minute and 30 seconds, they'd be given their next clue. Based on what you knew about these two choices for the detour, what would you have done?
Okay, so the clue that they were given about the chariots, it almost seemed like they thought it was going to be real horses. But the clue that they read us, it said robotic race car type remote control.
Right, because Rachel got really excited when she heard it was like a horse and a carriage.
Yeah, and so I was so confused. I'm like, do they get what we hear or no? Right?
That's a good question. I want to know what's like that little sheet of
Yeah, I
paper
know.
like,
I've
stuck
always
in the
wondered
clue.
that.
Like, just zoom in on that for us as
know.
audiences to know what they see.
I'm okay. So if I just didn't know that it was going to be a remote control, first of all, I suck at remote controls. I never did the whole race car thing, and I'm horrible with horses. So I would have done the gladiator one, and now that I know what both of them are, I would have loved to do the gladiator, all the theatrical and sound effects. So
100%. And I feel like we saw there was a lot of struggle at the charioteer part of the detour because it seemed as more teams started to show up.
Yeah.
There was just too much of a crowd to really control your chariot through the course in a minute and 30 seconds.
I loved how all of the the guys driving the chariots, they were like falling off and just like dangling. Like,
ooh, yeah.
Yeah, they would have
Flying off
for
every
sure
which
been
way.
dead if they were real. For sure.
So we see John and Jessica, they were the first ones to the clue box, first ones to their detour. You know, they're pretty much leading the pack this entire leg. So they choose Gladiator. And then for Charioteer, we see Brenchel, the Afghanimals, Dave and Connor, Flight Time Big Easy, Caroline and Jen, and Jet and Cord. But the Afghanimals taking a risk and changing it up a little bit with that detour and going to do the Gladiator
This
portion.
scared me.
I was a little nervous.
I'm a huge Leo and Jamal fan, obviously. And I mean, we've said it before, when you change up the detour, you lose your momentum and it's almost better just to tough it out and get through it.
100%.
But they were right, and the more people who showed up, the tougher the chariots got. So they switched it up. I'm glad they switched it up because they were absolutely hilarious doing the gladiators. I mean, they're just so funny. They're so entertaining. But what do you think?
I would have loved to have done the gladiator portion. I just think it would have been a lot of fun to put on those costumes and kind of just learn a little bit more about, you know, what it's like to be a gladiator, because they really learned this routine that they were choreographed. So I loved that whole entire part of the Detour. The charioteer portion, I think I would have gotten a little frustrated because, you know, if we were a team on the race, like if I am controlling the speed and you're controlling the direction, then I would have to like kind of slow down while you were directing it around a corner.
Exactly.
I think that was probably a lot of the struggle the teams had, is that they weren't really communicating. It was just more like, let's get in there and get it done.
Yeah.
But with
And
Gladiator,
then
you have a little
also-
bit more control.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And then with the chariots, it was almost like if another team was on their 5th round, you could almost like move your chariot to kind of screw up their last round. So not only were you not in full control, but then the other teams, you know, had like an advantage to kind of screw you up.
Yeah, and even if it was intentional or not, it's like one mistake could make a mistake for everybody.
Yeah.
Because that track did not seem like a big enough track to accommodate 5 teams trying to do the Detour at once.
Yeah.
So, but we saw at the Detour for Gladiators, Jessica killed it. Let's be honest.
Oh.
She was a gladiator at heart.
For
or
sure.
even in her past life. She got in there and took it like a champ. But John struggled a little bit.
And John was the one like, oh, I got this. This is going to be so easy. I did Taekwondo. He's going in there like super confident. And dun, dun, dun. He like screws it up once. I think maybe twice.
Yeah, his reflexes got the best of him because rather than blocking with his sword, he blocked with his shield. But in his defense, I feel like the more natural move would be to block a sword with a shield.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah. But I loved, I mean, Jess was so into it. She was like, like really bringing out her theater techniques.
100%. Like when she died, she got really into it. But of course, with the Afghanimals, they completely do everything they do on this race with style. So you kind of have to hand it to them. They just kind of dove right into that part of the Detour and just killed it. They were fun, they were laughing, and you can't help but enjoy watching them because they're so entertaining.
I know. The what was like the actual guy they were fighting? The
like,
seasoned gladiator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
so the seasoned gladiator, I don't know if it was Leo or Jamal, but was like, come on, let's fight you, turkey. And they're like, come on, let's fight you, gladiator. Like they didn't know what else to say. They're just so funny.
They're so good. And we're not just saying that because we love them in person, but like they really, in my opinion, as a super fan of the race, the Afghanimals, Leo and Jamal, to me, they are this season. Like no one compares to them. They bring the entertainment level to where it needs to be.
Right.
Everyone else to me is just kind of there.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say, do you think?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, Rachel in her sequin shorts. She was wearing her sequin shorts
Even
again.
Brendan was wearing the sequins headband. I was like, all right, Brendan.
So they are just, you know, crazy with her high-pitched voice and the sequin shorts. But Leo and Jamal, by far, not only are they, you know, they're great competitors in the race, but they're having fun and they're so entertaining. And so, of course, they stand out. I mean,
Their
honestly,
enthusiasm's contagious.
yeah, and all the episodes, they're the ones, you know, getting the audience laughing and showing that, you know, you still have to have fun and it's still a show, so.
100%.
Yeah. But let's talk about the speed bump.
Yes, because before Caroline and Jen could do the Detour and continue racing, they had to complete the speed bump. And for the speed bump, they had to head to the Pantheon to pick up an antique typewriter and then find the Altare della Patria, which apparently is a building in Rome that looks like a typewriter.
I know. What's up with all the typewriters?
And they had to do all that before they continued to the Detour portion of this leg. So what
I
did you
thought
think?
this was the stupidest speed bump. Like, how did they think of this? Oh, yeah, so go to this antique place and find an antique typewriter and put it on this podium. Like,
I mean, I feel like speed bumps, I can appreciate the producers and the creators of the show wanting to just add something new. They've had this for, you know, a few seasons now, just to throw another element to the race.
yeah.
But it goes kind of back to the episode where Brenchel had a speed bump, and all they had to do was make prints on graphic tees and then call it a day.
Exactly.
It's almost like I want to see them be challenged a little bit more and like make them realize what's at stake.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like, all right, just show up and do it, and then, all right, here's your clue.
I know.
So, but they did it. They did it.
They did it. And I want to know how heavy it was. They made it seem like that typewriter was just so heavy. They were like passing it back. Oh, wait, hold it for a second. I'm just curious to know how heavy it is. So girls, if you're out there watching, let me know. Tweet me how heavy it was.
You know, I thought I was really, that's the point where I was like waiting for them to do their, you know, what they do in style best is just asking people for help. I was really hoping that they were going to ask a local to carry that typewriter for them. Yeah. But that's what I was like, there's probably something in the clue that kind of limited them to doing that.
Carry it,
yeah. But congratulations, ladies, for doing it.
Yes.
They toughed it out.
And it worked out to their advantage, to the speed bump, actually, because they chose the chariots. So once they got there,
you're right.
all the other teams were just finishing up, so they had the entire track to themselves. And, you know, one thing I also love about the country girls and Leo and Jamal is that they are enjoying the race. They're seizing the moment. They're having fun. You know, they were having fun and laughing about the chariot, saying that they don't even care about the driver. They only care that the horses are okay. And then Leo and Jamal are having so much fun pretending to be gladiators and learn the culture. And, you know, those two teams out of all of the teams racing right now, I feel like are really seizing the moment and taking in the entire race.
I would have to agree with you on that, Jessica, because you saw when they were the only ones left at that part of the detour, they were doing it with enthusiasm, and they were like, you know, we're last place, and if we get eliminated today, we might as well just live in the moment.
Exactly.
And enjoy it for what it's worth. And they didn't have like that defeated attitude at all.
Yeah, they never like once gave up.
No.
Or yeah, exactly.
So again, there's me kind of warming
Cheers,
up
girls.
to the country singers. But before we move on to the next part of this episode, make sure you go onto iTunes and continue to rate, comment, and subscribe, because for weeks consistently we've been at 4.5 out of 5 stars, which we appreciate, and that's all thanks to you guys. And you guys give us such, thank you, you give us such wonderful feedback every week too on our YouTube videos. We're so glad that you have enjoyed our special guests coming to the studio. We've seen that like we had a lot of positive response to Jason and Amy being here last time. It's always nice to have race experts to just kind of really give us a little taste of what it's like when they open the clues or making those decisions. So hopefully we can continue to get a little bit more special guests in here as the race progresses this season. But yeah, continue to interact with us because we sure as heck appreciate it.
Speaking of special guests, I just want to throw it out there just to inform you guys that Leo was with the country girls, I think last weekend.
Oh, I saw that on his Instagram.
Yes, and he put up a picture on Instagram, and I was like, oh my gosh, please tell the girls I say hello, give them a big hug for me. So I just have to say that they now know I'm a huge fan.
I know, especially when they left the studio last week too. Remember, you were texting and like, they're a huge fan.
I'm so excited.
And I want to give some shout outs from Twitter. Of course, our number one fan, I would have to say on Twitter, is Allie146924. She always tunes in every week, never misses a beat. So thank you, Allie, for being our fan and watching our show. And Justin tweeted too, we miss you. And of course, he's jealous of the photo that we put out there. Yeah. So. All right.
You know, gotta take a selfie.
Yeah, right. Bye, Justin. Just kidding. So let's move on to this roadblock. They had to make their way to Piazza di Spagna. Spagna. That would probably make the most sense, right?
Yeah.
Where they had to get their route marker, which ended up being a roadblock. But on the way to this route marker, John and Jessica, this is when we kind of see them really fall behind.
Yeah.
And I was like, what happened? I mean, I understand taxi drivers, they're in control when they drive, but like, how did this taxi driver not know where to go when they explained it? To me, Piazza di Spagna is a landmark of Rome.
Exactly.
So how did this taxi driver not know where that was? Like, does he still have a job? Like, he should probably be fired.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I was rooting for John and Jess. They were doing really well.
Yeah, and I hate it when a team gets behind or, you know, or worse because of a taxi driver. But in this case, you know, everyone else was smart. They either asked the taxi driver oh, hey, can I borrow your phone to look up exactly where it is? They were proactive. Like, I know the country girls somehow got a phone and looked it up. Same with Dave and Connor, right? Mm-hmm. They found a phone, looked it up. Well, they just trusted the taxi driver who took them in a totally wrong direction. They ended up at an apartment building. Like, clearly that's the wrong spot. But then they wanted to find a hotel. And I was confused as to why they didn't just have the taxi driver say, okay, you already screwed up once, just take us to a hotel.
100%.
Instead, they just got out of the taxi and started walking, like aimlessly walking. But then once they got to the hotel, they could have easily just asked the people at the front desk, oh, do you know where this is? But instead, they were like, John was like, we have an emergency. Okay, buddy, do you know what an emergency is? This is not an emergency. I know you're racing for your life, but this is not an emergency. And they wanted to use a computer. Like, couldn't they have just asked?
Yeah. I mean, you think that's what you would probably do in this kind of situation. If you're not sure of where you're going, just ask.
Yeah. So.
But that darn taxi driver, I feel bad for John and Jessica because after that, I remember seeing that clip, and then all of a sudden they were just completely edited out until they showed up at the roadblock, like 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
So when they got to the roadblock, it was called there was the Spanish Steps, which is, I guess, a really huge thing. And
they're like the longest steps in Europe.
But why is it called Spanish? You have?
I have.
What's it like? Tell us everything.
Granted, I went when I was really young, but they're beautiful, big steps in Europe, in Italy.
So if you had to go on to the race, Marissa, and count those steps, how do you think you would do?
Pretty bad. But I would admit, like, if I went back again, I would run up those stairs like Rocky.
Yes. Because that is exactly what teams had to do in this roadblock.
Yeah.
Whatever member decided to do it, they had to count the steps and then add the total to the Roman numerals that was on the obelisco Salutistiano.
Yeah.
I butchered that one too.
Basically, just to find out the year the obelisk was erected.
100%, yes.
But the tricky part was that they had to write it in Roman numerals.
I would have been completely lost.
Okay, who even uses Roman numerals anymore? Okay, that was like so way a long time ago.
But that's so true. Like,
I know.
I mean, I probably know like the first 5
I know, like,
Roman numerals, and that's it.
Like, what is 5 is like X, or
hold on.
5 is X.
3 I. Yeah.
5 is V.
5 is V, and then
10
6
is X.
and then 6 is VI.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know at least 6.
Okay, so we could have got to 6.
We could have got to 6.
And yeah, X is 10.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, anyways, it was a challenging one.
It was a challenging one for sure. I think you and I would have. Yeah, that would have been an interesting challenge for us to do.
I was surprised that all the locals and all the tourists knew so many Roman numerals.
Well, you know what? I wonder why I would have just asked a local the answer. Like, what's the answer? Because they had to find the year, right? That it was erected. Why not just ask someone?
That's what I was thinking.
Like, if that was not in the fine print of the clue, that's when I would outsmart the rules and say, okay, well, someone here's got to be a history buff,
right?
Or I'm just gonna go use someone's computer and Google.
I know
the answer.
How do you write this in Roman numerals? But okay, the Globetrotters. What was going on with them? Like, hello, I don't think they turned their light bulb on. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're just not the sharpest knives in the drawer.
Yeah, and I think Flight Time kind of like owned up to that a little bit. He's like, I didn't really know what the heck I was doing, or something like that.
Clearly, because all he was doing was, first of all, he didn't even count the steps. He just asked people the first like 2 or 3 times, and then finally he counted the steps, and he kept getting it wrong. I was like,
oh, Flight Time, bless your heart.
Buddy. Yeah.
Well, the one person that didn't seem to struggle at all, though, is Brendan. He kind of did it like a champ, and they were in and out, no problem. But then when Dave and Connor showed up to this part, Rachel, when they were asking where the clue box was like, it's over there. I don't know if you saw her hand. She's like, it's over there.
It's like, yeah.
And she's like, I pointed them in the right direction.
Come on,
no,
girlfriend.
you really did not like physically go. It's that way. You did this weird, awkward, like it's there.
And then her comment when Dave came back and was like, "Hey, thanks for showing us where it was." She's like, "I pointed you in the right direction. What do you want me to do? Like hold your hand?" Okay. No, he does not want you to hold his hand.
Nope.
Just a little help.
But Dave dove right into that roadblock, brushed it off, did his thing.
Yeah, I loved how Connor in the interview was like, "Yeah, our dad hasn't seen a Roman numeral since he was 10, which was like 80 years ago."
I love their relationship. And then you kind of saw when Jen and Caroline showed up to that alliance, that bond that they have, you know, just because they're from the same season too, and they seem to be really working well together as a 4-person team. So because I think they worked together, they were able to complete the task at hand rather quickly.
Right.
Which then, you know, Brendan and Rachel, no problem, first place. And that's when we see Dave and Connor and Jen and Caroline running to the mat together.
I love it.
And Dave and Connor let Caroline and Jennifer get second. I mean, Phil said they let them get second, but I would say, yeah, they did.
That was so sweet.
That was really sweet.
That was so, I mean, I don't even think any other team would have done that.
I doubt it.
And so that shows, you know, that both teams, they're just great people. Although I gotta say, Connor's the boy, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Connor, he's looking cute.
He's very handsome.
Oh, yeah. I was like, you look really hot this episode. So, Connor.
I wonder if there's like any potential romantic interest with Connor and either of the country singers. Just saying.
Just saying.
That would be interesting to find out, because on the first season, we know that Caroline and Jennifer, it was no secret that if they found love on the race, they wouldn't object to it. So I wonder if this season it's the same with Connor.
Maybe you're onto something.
I would support it.
Yeah, me too.
He is a catch, and he is a great dad.
For sure. Oh, and speaking of dad, did you hear that they mentioned the Achilles? They mentioned
when he was running up
the.
But wait, I don't think it was Dave and Connor that mentioned it, because when he was running up the hill, I think it was Flight Timer Big Easy that said, "You better be careful. Don't want to bust your Achilles again."
I was like, oh, not again. Whoever said it just should not have.
We at least would have gotten at least one shot.
Yeah.
This episode, just one shot in our system.
Yeah.
So then we saw also Jet and Jamal do this roadblock, and as well as John. And John and Jessica came up at the very tail end when it seemed like just Flight Time and Jamal were the only, no, Flight Time and Jet were the only ones that were still there, right? I got so confused because I was like rushing the last like 10 minutes of this episode to get here.
So Jamal figured it out, and then there was only Flight Time and John left. And so as he was leaving and he figured it out, they were just struggling. And especially John, I think he had like just got there. And so, you know, Jamal was like, okay, I'll give you the answer, but we have to be in front of you guys in this race. We have to beat you, and you cannot U-turn us. Which, do you think that was a smart move?
I think it was a smart move in the sense of you cannot U-turn us, because you know the U-turn is inevitable. It's going to happen.
Right.
So I think that was smart, but I think also if I was the team that was given that option of, oh, you know, I have to let you be in front of me, I'm still going to fight hard to be in front of you on that mat, because time is of essence in this race. But I think he took a gamble, and it was a risk that paid off, because you saw him get to the mat before John, Jessica, and Flight Time and Big Easy.
Right. Because they also had to write it down and then go back up and turn their thing in. So they had a little bit of, you know, time to get ahead too.
Right.
But I mean, especially compared to last season, holy cow, Leo and Jamal, the Afghanimals, are completely different. I mean, before, they would have told them probably the wrong answer.
Yep.
Here, this is the right answer, and not. And now it's like they're helping out everyone. They have just, tables have turned for them.
100%. And I think this was it was intense to some respect, the foot race to the mat, because you see 3 teams really duking it out for those last 2 places to move on to the next part of this race. But unfortunately for John and Jessica, they just fell a little too short. And just by the facial reaction when they knew that they were last. I felt like there was a lot we didn't see behind the scenes because they looked a little pissed. Maybe because of something that happened with production. I mean, I don't know. I'm just saying the way they looked bitter about being eliminated.
Right.
Not as thrilled as like, you know, it was fun to come back a second time, blah, blah, blah. Just part of me wanted to know, maybe there's some drama that happened with the taxi situation that we don't know about. But I felt bad for them because they really were killing it this leg. It was almost like they were killing it too much, but that wasn't meant to happen. So
yeah, I mean, sometimes you never know with production, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I wonder, and I've always said this, but do they plan like anything out? Because how can a taxi driver who drives around tourists not know where the steps are, where everyone visits? Like, it's like a huge place, you know, the Plaza de España. Like, I feel like taxi drivers should just know those things.
I completely agree. And that's why I keep saying something was weird about this entire episode. They went from first, consistently doing well, getting to the clue boxes first, then to straight last.
I know.
It didn't, as a viewer, it just didn't add up to me. I feel like there's a lot of stuff that happened behind the scenes that I want to know.
Yeah.
It just, for story purposes, did not add up.
And especially because the taxi driver, he didn't take them to like, you know, another plaza or like a shopping center. He
took random apartment complex.
Yeah, like how would he know this apartment complex but not the Spanish Steps? I don't know.
I'm saying. He probably doesn't have a job as a taxi driver in Rome anymore.
He's a fake taxi.
So that kind of concludes our entire race, this leg of The Amazing Race, episode 7. Let's dive into some predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
All right. Well, since Justin's not here, I can't throw it to him first. So I'm going to throw it to you first, Jessica.
Okay. I think my country girls, I'm so proud of them. Yeah, they went from last and did a speed bump and got to second. I mean, girls, I could not be more proud of you. You guys are freaking amazing. I think that as much as I love them, I think maybe Flight Time and Big Easy.
They haven't been pulling in high numbers the last few legs.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't think they've ever got like first, second.
Mm-mm.
So I think maybe it's time for Flight Time and Big Easy, even though I don't want to say bye to them. And I think Brendan and Rachel are not going to be first. I think that was just a lucky race for them this episode.
Although our followers on Twitter might disagree with that statement.
But I think that Caroline and Jennifer, they're going to stay up, and Leo and Jamal, they're going to stay up. But this episode, we did not see hardly anything from Jet and Cord.
Hardly anything. They were
nothing.
Not even really in the edit at all. Based on what we've seen, the first 6 episodes, it was like, where was Jet and Cord?
Yeah, exactly. Like who knows with them? They just seem to like, they never complain. Mm-mm. They always just sneak by everyone. So that's my predictions, is that Leo, Jamal, Jennifer, Caroline, top, bye-bye, Flight Time, Big Easy.
All right. I think I would have to agree with most of what you were saying. I think, honestly, as a super fan, I think I'm a little disappointed with this season, and I'm just going to be honest. I might get some backlash for it. But I just kind of feel like we're going through the motions every episode, and it's just kind of dragging on. And it's just like, it goes back to casting for me. I wish there were bigger characters, people that I wanted to know more of. So for me, it's like at this point I really don't care what happens. I can't really make a prediction either, because whoever leaves is going to leave, and it's just going to happen. It's inevitable. But I think we're going to see Brenchel stay in this a little bit longer. I actually have a feeling, since they keep playing up the whole, we're going to have babies if we win, I can actually see Brenchel being in the top 3, because that story would be fun to see racing to the finish line. It's like, are they going to get their babies or not? So I think Brenchel is going to do really well. I think they're going to stay in for a little bit longer. I think Afghanimals have a really strong shot. And I think Dave and Connor I think they're going to go again all the way. But I would have to say Flight Time and Big Easy. I think we might have to say goodbye to them next week. So we'll see what happens.
And, back on what you said about this season, before we got to know more about the team's personal life because we're meeting them for the first time. We're learning what they did, you know, the relationship. And now it's just the race. You know, none of them have big personalities pretty much except for the Afghanimals. Yeah. And they don't even talk about, like Dave and Connor, they have such an amazing story that we all want to know about.
It's just not there, though.
It's not there.
Not there.
I mean, all we know is that Rachel wants to have babies.
Yep.
That's it. And the freaking, like, that.
It's true. I mean, that's about it. Outside of the race.
Like the Globetrotters, they could be talking about stories or like, oh, I remember, you know, this challenge reminded me of when we had to do this, or I don't know. There's like so much they could talk about.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
Even Caroline and Jennifer, like last season, the previous season, they would make up songs and
we don't see any of that this season.
None of that. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just that intense and that much harder, and they have to like really focus. But I wish we saw more of that.
That would be my question for all of you who watch our after show and who are super fans of the show. What are your thoughts? You know, I feel like we're halfway through the season now. And it just, for me, it's just not doing it. I'm ready for season 25. I'm ready for a batch of new teams that are fresh, new relationships we haven't seen, new stories. I'm just ready to just get it over with.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a little harsh, but I am a die-hard fan.
Yeah.
And I have to say, this is the first time I can say I've been a little disappointed with this season. So let us know in the comments below. Tweet us. And if you want to tweet us, Jess, where can they find you to tell you what they think?
You can find me at DressJessXO on all the social media networks.
And you can find me on Twitter at James Wallington, on Instagram at Mr. James Wally. And Justin, we missed you, and we are excited to all be reunited for next week.
Yes, maybe we can get Kim in, too.
Yeah, hopefully, Kim, we can have you back in the studio. And until next week.
Have a great weekend and week, everyone. And if you're celebrating Easter, happy early Easter.
Yeah.
And Passover.
Yeah. And Lent's almost over, which means I can have some wine.
Oh, maybe we'll have cheers with some wine.
I think that's a great idea. Bye, guys.
Bye,
have a good
guys.
night.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.